All right, so as we've moved on from inheritance to choices, today we're spotlighting people building, and I'm excited to talk to all of you. We've talked a bit before, we had the great opportunity before this and backstage as well about your work, and it is really incredible work. It's across the entire world. I think maybe the best thing to do is I want to hear it in each of your own words. Cameron, why don't we start with it's a lot of things. It's an industrial mecca in your country. It's also a university. Just tell us who you are and a bit about what you're working on. Actually, start with just who you are and maybe just down the panel here, and then we'll get back to what you're working on.
So I'm Cameron. I'm representing Uzbekistan. This is a country in Central Asia, and I'm a board member in the largest industrial enterprise, and I'm also running a university training future leaders with a Western mindset, but training them to stay loyal to their traditions.
My name is Gabriel Kanner. I'm a Brazilian businessman and founder of In Search of Truth, which is a classical education society. So we teach classical philosophy and history to business leaders.
My name is Magat Wade. I'm an entrepreneur from Senegal, west coast of Africa. And yes, I don't know how much time we have, but real quick.
Just a second, I want to give, just like the bare bones, and then we'll dig into
yes, thank you. I'm the co-founder for Prosper Africa, which is a series of next generation special economic zones in Africa that have their own law and have their own governance.
I'm Austin Bishop, general partner at Tamarack Global. We invest a lot across what we call reindustrialization, aerospace, defense, manufacturing, supply chain, and also co-founder of the summit we call Reindustrialise, and this new coalition of companies and investors called the New American Industrial Alliance.
All right, so you're all kind of taking this from different perspectives. I think probably the best place to start would be, Austin, your work. It's kind of like the meta of reindustrialization as a concept and also your project. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's been fascinating. Just in the last couple of days, I mean, we saw certainly last week with JD over in Germany, and just yesterday with Nigel talking about the need for reindustrialization. It's been something, I had a bit of trepidation coming over here around wondering if the Europeans were going to be as excited about this as it seems to be over in the US, where there's just a massive, massive movement towards the need to reclaim sovereignty over supply chains. And this is high tech, low tech, old industry, new industry, where everyone's realizing we have to be able to make stuff again in the West.
I agree. Cameron, you're sort of at on the vanguard of reindustrialization in your home country. Can you tell us just a little bit more about the project? And then I would like to know kind of how you got into it and where it stands today.
After the dissolution of Soviet, Uzbekistan was really in a tough position to rebuild all the economy, basically moving from agrarian economy to industrial. And that was the quite big challenge, but also we wanted to have economy where it's driven with so-called free enterprise model, and to move on then eventually to the service industry. And the most difficult challenge we had lack of competence, but we had lack of competence. So most of the people were actually working in an agrarian economy. And what initially happened is we had a century-old traditions and values, basically with the young generation, and we decided, okay, we're going to bridge Western knowledge, scientific approach to the business with our youth, and empowered our young generation to build or kind of restore the Silk Road that we had. And so Silk Road, as you know from the history, it's kind of bridging of all the different cultures. And this was it. And everything we do in business was driven with certain values. So first of all is the family values, where most of the employees in the company treated like brothers, sisters, and every decision you make, it's a consequence not only for yourself, but also for the family members. And one of the important principal foundation was our reverence or respect for elderly people, where for a young generation, there was no any room for arrogance, and it always boosted us to do a personal development. And these values, actually this synergy, over the last 20 years, creates 7% growth in our economy, and much more in this conference. I'm started to hear about Uzbekistan, and 2 years ago, Uzbekistan was known as a country of the world by the economists. And the things what we are doing is not only industrialization of the country, but also we created our own university called Central Asian University, where we're bringing the world leaders and bridging the Western knowledge with our young generation, but at the same time teaching them to stay loyal to the values, century-old values that we have in our culture.
It seems like it would just not be possible at all. I mean, obviously, it would obviously not be possible at all without a massive change in the regulatory environment in your country following communism to liberalization. But there are still these liberal countries that are completely crippled by regulation that inhibits reindustrialization and entrepreneurship. This is something that you're working a lot on, Magat. Can you tell us a little bit, just high level about the project, and then I have a couple of follow-up questions about Prospera in Africa.
Sure. So I think a couple days ago you all heard me talk about my winning recipe for human flourishing. It's on one hand economic freedom and access to affordable, reliable, and abundant energy sources, right? So I do my part on the economy side, but on the energy side, but on the economic freedom side, what economic freedom means is poverty is solved by prosperity, not poverty alleviation. I'm not simply just happy just because I'm going to be a little bit less poor, thank you very much. I want prosperity. So poverty is solved by prosperity. Prosperity is built by entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs do not happen in a vacuum. They need an enabling business environment. Yet, when you look there, you find that African nations are the ones who offer the most crappiest, rotten business environments to their would-be wealth creators. That cannot stay that way. What do you do? What do you do? Thank you. What do you do? Well, in this case, what you do is you create in African nations enclaves where you bring in world-class business environments. That's what Prospera is, basically. It is a governance platform that is embedded into an e-government system featuring its own choice of law as well as its own choice of regulation, and all of that designed and built by the best city designers in the world, including the team of the Dubai International Financial Center, as well as the Estonia key architect of the Estonian e-government teams, as well as people from Sandy Springs in Georgia, where the government of the US decided to outsource its responsibilities to a private operator. So this is what we're doing in Africa, and with that, I believe we're going to leapfrog ahead. And this is very important for all of us here in this room, because I believe that if you're going to be serious about the renewal of the West does not exist in a vacuum. Last time I checked, you share this globe with us Africans. You cannot afford 1.5 billion Africans remaining poor. That is just not a winning solution. I'm telling you that right now.
Actually, Gabriel, I'm going to move on to you in one second, but I have a quick follow-up on something that you just said. You mentioned prosperity. I thought that was interesting, Magat. Not many people focus on that. You seemed like you were saying this was like a super contrarian thing. I agree with you. Can you speak a little bit more about that? Like, what is the block there that people have? And is it seems like it's not in Africa. It seems like it's maybe more of a Western idea.
These type of cities?
You're saying you're like, my goal is prosperity.
Yes.
Wealth. Like,
yes.
we are going to be rich.
Yes.
And it seems like when we talked last, you mentioned,
yes.
The African people they don't understand this idea of not wanting that. Like, obviously we want that. Can you maybe just talk a little more about what you think is inhibiting the Europeans or anyone else in this way?
Thinking that Africa just should be happy with poverty?
Your goal is prosperity.
Yes.
It sounds like maybe other people's do not have that goal, and maybe don't even realize that they don't have that goal. Is that something that you would agree with, or? Well,
the only thing I would say on that, and maybe I'm not understanding your question, because it's hard to hear from, I don't know why.
Oh, sorry.
But, it's really mind-boggling to me that in 2025, you line up 100 people and you ask them, why is Africa poor? And yet no one is going to come with the fact that Africa is poor because it is the most over-regulated region in the world. You just won't hear that. And then Westerners have been wasting their time, and our time, frankly, with sending foreign aid left and right. right? And that has really crippled us. So, and this, I guess, goes back to your question of, so do you think really that your best relationship with us is for us to be the recipients of your aid? Does it never occur to you, all the things we talk about here, that all of us have been created in the image of God, and that we all have the same, possibilities and, inclinations if given the right environment? So I hear the West talking a lot about that, and in this conference we talk a lot about these things, but I just don't see it being translated when it comes to your foreign policies with Africa in this case. It is just not transparent, and it's going to have to change.
So now, like everything, it all goes back to education. Gabriel, can you tell me a little bit more about what you're working on, and then I would like to sort of talk maybe more broadly about education and kind of what you're challenging. But let's just start with the actual project, because I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, so at In Search of Truth, we have almost 1,000 business leaders in Brazil and some of the biggest businesses in the country. And this is relevant because Brazil is the 10th largest economy in the world, larger than Russia. And so through the study of the classics, such as Plato, Aristotle, St. Augustine, and St. Thomas Aquinas, effectively, we teach business leaders how to become kings. And what I mean by this is that when Aristotle talks about monarchy, basically he's talking about a system where you have authority and a clear hierarchy. And everything that works in the world is based on authority and having a clear hierarchy. So Aristotle says, for example, that a family is a monarchy because the father is a king, the mother is a queen, and the children follow the established order of the house. If the parents do not have authority, and if the children subvert the hierarchy of the house, that's a dysfunctional family. And companies work in the same way. So every company starts as a heroic monarchy. So you have an entrepreneur who has a vision, he wants to solve a problem, so he develops a product or a service. When the company starts to grow, he can't do everything by himself, so he needs to surround himself with the best people he can find, a group of competent people that will help him take his vision forward. So he starts to have business partners, directors. That's what Aristotle would call an aristocracy. It's a group of leaders that's willing to sacrifice themselves for the common good. And when the company grows even more, they have to delegate power, give people autonomy, and create a system where they can grow in the company based on their merit. That's called a republic. So every functioning company works in exactly the same way St. Thomas Aquinas described in the Middle Ages as the best form of government, which is a mixed monarchy. So you have a monarchical figure, which is the owner or the CEO of the company. You have a competent leadership, which is an aristocracy, and you have a republic, which basically is meritocracy. Now, when companies start to decline, this original leadership starts to be replaced by people that have power inside of the companies, but they don't care anymore about the common good. They care about their own political agendas and about their own self-interest. So companies start to become oligarchies or bureaucracies. That's when the HR department starts to say, now we have to have DEI policies. That's when the marketing department starts to say, now we have to run LGBTQ campaigns. And if companies were to transition into the last form of government, which Aristotle describes as democracy, that would be total chaos, right? So imagine, Cameron, if you were to say, okay, from now on, in my company, we're going to be a democracy. So anyone can run for CEO, and all the employees are going to vote. And they're going to vote on their salaries and working hours. If the company survives more than 6 months, I'd be surprised. And so what has to happen is that to restore order, we have to teach business leaders how to exert their legitimate authority, right? So they have to destroy the oligarchies, get rid of these people that hate the values that you believe in. And so a very clear example of this was when Elon Musk bought Twitter. So Twitter was clearly an oligarchy, and Elon Musk said, here are $44 billion. Now I'm the king of this company. I'm going to fire 80% of the woke employees, restore order, and get this company back on track. And that's what companies should be doing all over the world if we want to reclaim our civilization. Because business leaders should be running the economy of the world.
Agree. I can
just to finish that point, business leaders should be running the economy of the world, not the Federal Reserve, which is an oligarchy. So everyone who's here today needs to step up. The business world needs to step up. And from now on, we're going to be gathering here at ARC instead of at the World Economic Forum.
Awesome. So, Austin, while I was first talking about Reindustrialize, you were very careful to contrast it with the World Economic Forum. You said this is not the World Economic Forum's approach. Can you maybe describe how we've approached these things before and why you would never approach it in that way?
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, it's top down versus bottom up, and what we're seeing in the U.S. right now and abroad, and just in the last couple of days in so many conversations, it's like, as I said earlier, everyone's realizing we have to be able to make stuff, and in order to do that, I mean, that's not going to get done by fiat. That's not going to get done by, a giant board of directors voting on this. It's going to get done by unleashing the peerless capital markets that the West has access to invest in these types of businesses, and the brilliant entrepreneurs that we have who want to go and build the future. And for us, our bumper sticker is something like build more, regulate less. There's a million, we can go into the weeds on a million different policy ideas, but just simply getting out of the way of Western entrepreneurs and the folks who want to invest in them is a simple recipe. And we're seeing this with Doge right now. Just getting rid of all of the rot is going to, I think, quickly unleash a massive change to the tune that most people are probably not expecting. You add on top of this the national security risk of not reclaiming our ability to make stuff. I mean, when people hear reindustrialize, I think a lot of them first think we're talking about, bringing back steel factories. I mean, I know this country can no longer produce virgin steel, which is it's a real shame. I would love to see that, but it's everything from aerospace to pharmaceuticals. I mean, if you like your kids having access to antibiotics, something like 97% of the precursors for pharmaceutical supply chains are made in China, and so. When it comes down to this idea of having sovereignty over where and how we produce stuff, again, it's just not going to get done just by the elites. We have to empower folks who want to build these companies, and we just need to level the playing field for them.
So the recurring theme, or one of the main recurring themes, is regulation. And I don't think that cutting out the rot is enough. You do have to have regulations in place that are pro-business, right? And this is, again, something that you're working on a lot. Prospera started in Honduras, I believe, and they had a very different story. Can you tell us a little bit about, I guess whenever you talk about Prospera, whenever they would talk about the project, the first response was, well, what if the government just comes in and takes it? And I don't know if that's entirely happened yet. It seems like it probably will. It seems like a very precarious situation. What have you learned from what happened in Honduras, and how are you going to protect yourself from governments if you do become this super successful, Shenzhen in Africa or something, or Hong Kong? How do you protect it?
Yeah. That's a very good question. I'll answer it real quick, but before that, I just wanted to say, you heard it here first. Doge will be great, but will not be enough. The ultimate solution is Doge on steroids. It's going to mean these prosperous cities. In America, they want to call them freedom cities. You basically have to introduce a concept of a general repealer. The best way for, because I testified before Congress this week, in the US Congress, about this, and they were asking me, what should the feds do if we want to help entrepreneurs? And I told them, get out of the way. And the way you're going to get out of the way is we're going to use a legal tool called the general repealer, where we get to basically brush away all the current regulations so we can start afresh, right? And so that's what's going to need to happen. Ultimately, in all of these nations in the West, it's going to need to happen, Africa, everywhere. That's the ultimate thing we're going to have to go for. Everything else, we're playing chicken scraps. Don't fool yourself. So going back to your question, for those of you who may have been following the story, so Prosper Africa, this beautiful organization that I told you about, came to life in Honduras, and we've been operating there for the past 4 years. What happens when the government decides to go rogue? Well, the government that signed with us was a different government than the one we have now. The one we have now wants to play with China, Cuba, Venezuela, so you can imagine what type of government. And they want to make us, their poster child of this is what we do to free market capitalist people, to people who believe in the values that the West believes in. And so they tried to take us basically go after us. but we have a very, very strong legal stability guarantee that's good for 50 years. So right now, the case is pending in court, and we're going to win it, as well as the government also is going to be changing. That's the other thing. It's all baked in, but we can survive governments where they can't survive our existence. It's a longer conversation, but bottom line is we're getting our proof that the model is working and is strong enough. So, and in Africa, we don't have the issues and the baggage around socialism and Marxism that Latin America and Central America have. You have young Africans with the youngest population in the world, and our youth wants prosperity. We don't have any of this disease of, oh, wealth is dirty. We don't have any of that. We want to be wealthy. We want to be prosperous. We are like, yeah, capitalism.
Thank you. I've got a bunch more questions, but we're unfortunately out of time. Thank you all very much for your time.